Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Average Joe to Studio Pro. I'm always being asked my approach to mixing drums. So today I'm going to show you how I get started. Now this is going to be a two-part series, so be sure to check back with us next week for part 2.
All right, so let's jump into this and see what we have to work with. The first thing you're going to always do is listen, so let's go ahead. We'll all listen to this and work through it. All right, as we can hear, we are listening to a lot of the room, and that is because the overhand microphones are up in the front of the mix. So where I like to start is the kick and drum balance. So I'm going to grab everything and drop them all the way down. And what I'll do is bring up the kick, and then I'll slowly start working in this top snare. So let's just play with that, and I want you to see initially what I'm doing, and I'll explain right after I do it. Okay, so the kick drum is pretty loud from what I just found out when both tracks are at an even volume. So I back the kick down just a bit so I have a nice volume balance between the two. Now I'll go ahead and work the balance of the top snare and the bottom snare microphones. So essentially what I'm going to do is I'm going to solo these tracks, and I'm going to start to bring in that bottom snare until I feel that there's a good balance of the snares pulling through and there's still enough presence in that top snare. So let's listen to that. All right, now when you see me moving these, you're noticing that I'm going very slow. That is because I am using my ears. I just so happen to fall on 5s and 0s. Sometimes I may land on a 4 or a 2 or a 3 in the decimals right here. And that is because I essentially close my eyes and let my ears tell me when it's too much or too little, add more, take out. So that's a good practice to do. Close your ears. I know this is at 7, so here's the example. Close your eyes, start to lift up, and when your ears tell you, hey, that's good, or hey, that's too much, you can grab it and just go down. And do that at a slow pace so you know that your ears will tell you exactly when it's too much. So from here, now that I know I like those mix, we're going to go and start bringing in the overheads to a nice balance between the kick, snare, and the overheads. So let's do that. So that feels pretty good. So let's work with the hats and toms. So pay attention to what I do here. I'm just going to run through them and visually see what I'm doing. And remember, I'm closing my eyes, I'm listening, letting them come through and letting my ears tell me when, hey, that's too much, hey, that's too little. So just kind of watch as I bring those in. so that feels good, and I can hear everything that I want to hear. Everything feels balanced to me. I do know that these volumes will change as I further and progress through the mix, so keep that in mind. This is not the final product. So let's jump into panning our tracks now. I'll first set up a template where I think the pans should go, and from there I will work. So overheads, naturally I'm going to just throw way left, way right. My toms, this is my floor tom, the low floor tom. This is a floor tom. This is my rack tom. And I'm thinking in the drummer perspective. I know my hi-hats, as a right-handed drummer, I know my hi-hats would be a little bit left from where I'm sitting. I know my rack tom is a little bit closer to the center, and I know my tom is further to the right. And I'm setting up the pans visually as if I'm sitting down on the drums, and that'll make it easier to work with, so you can also visualize where you are sitting. So let's listen to this and see what we've come up with, and then we'll make the adjustments from there. All right. As you can see, my Tom 1 over here, the rack tom is at 0 dB. There is actually no hit coming from that drum in this recording, so it's unnecessary. I'm just leaving it out. I did pan it just so that there's a visual there in case in the mix later on that it does pop up. I feel that these are panned properly. Nothing's too loud still to me, and I feel that this is a good mix to kind of stop right here. We are going to go ahead and save the EQ and compression for our next episode. Next week, we'll be going over that. And if you also noticed, I kind of messed with the faders a little bit as I was panning to compensate for any changes that hurt the mix when I was putting them left or right. Understand that you'll be doing this along the way as you finish up your product, so don't be afraid of that. That doesn't mean you did anything wrong. Now, this is part one of a two-part tutorial, so check in with us next week as we bring in EQ and compression like I was saying before, and be sure to share this with your friends. And if you enjoyed this episode, hey, give it a thumbs up. Also, if you haven't done so already, check out the description for a link to the website and subscribe to our weekly tutorials and special information only available for those that are a part of our community. Thanks for being with us today as we continued our journey and going from Average Joe to Studio Pro. Until next time, guys, cheers.